Good evening. Welcome to a discussion on the way forward for the Indian logistics and supply chain industry. Now, any world-class product or service would not live up to its name if it did not reach the customer where he wants it and when he wants it, which is why logistics and supply chain management are an integral part of the entire customer satisfaction experience and the success of the company. And to discuss the prospects and the challenges ahead, we are joined by a very eminent panel. Mr. Maitra, let me start with you. Throw some light on the supply chain practices brought in by Maruti and how do they compare with the other automobile players who are now making a mad dash for the customer and doing pretty well there.
We used to have this conventional system of material coming in, being inspected, again kept into a store, which used to call as holding stores, and then it used to go to the line. Over a period of time, we have been able to eliminate all this. So therefore, what used to happen was the inventory which was being kept at 3 places have been able to go straight away to the line. In fact, we did things like, opening up big holes in the wall at a height where the trucks used to come with the bins, and there will be a roller rack right up to the line from the walls, and the truck drivers themselves will put those racks in, and it will just come to the line. So that way, the kind of inventory which we had, we were able to almost reduce it down by about 1/5. E-Nagare system was one, because earlier we used to give our suppliers a schedule for 1 month. But over a period of time, we started controlling that. And finally, today the system is that we give them a day in advance that tomorrow you have to bring in this material in this time window, in 2 hours, so much. And that is how we've been able to reduce our inventory maybe to the extent of from 1 month today to almost about 4 hours.
Mr. Lagad, you have global experience having worked abroad as well as in India. Do you think the logistics and the supply chain industry is poised to grow along with the growth that we are seeing in the economy?
The bottlenecks exist, first of all, in our infrastructure, which ensures that, we are not able to carry the product to the market in time. We have bottlenecks in policy frameworks, which does not allow our providers, our manufacturers to produce and to fulfill that demand. We don't have the right competent people to operate in this industry sector. And above all, I think the biggest problem that we have got is that we are too fragmented. The smaller players probably might drop off. There might be a consolidation that might come up. And then the global players probably will come up.
Mr. Patel, let's talk about the food business because everyone is now really irritated by the high food prices. I mean, for the longest time, I don't remember when papaya was 16 rupees a kg. For the longest time, it's been about 40 rupees, and it has started to pinch. The investment hasn't come in. What is happening? Is this because it's a piecemeal effort? Is this not working?
I think there is certainly a scale issue. There's not people exactly lining up at the door to go and invest in that particular sector. Around the change of land use, when you're putting infrastructure up, you can't get land in most areas, probably less than 1 crore rupees. If you just look at Delhi, ever try buying a truck in India? It probably takes about 3 months to put a multi-temperature truck. There are shortages of maybe 20 million drivers. And I feel and sense that in my business every day. So there's a huge talent issue. And, GST is a fire cry. That's one probably big area. Subsidies are there, but very complex. A mere subsidy or FDI is not going to sort things out. We've got FDI announced in 100%. The time hasn't come. It's a slow burner.
Mr. Sharma, the government also went in for privatization of rail freight. Now, again, I'm asking you, is this also like a piecemeal effort?
It is a stage of evolution. In the initial stages, the private industry started taking share from the Indian Railways. So we were doing things to take business away from the railways, which the railways were not necessarily happy about. So some new measures were introduced that restricted the scope. The industry has made a lot of representation, and there's a lot of changes that are on the way. The automobile freight train operator policy was announced, and companies like Maruti and other automobile companies will start taking advantage of that, and you'll see a lot of cars move by rail, so those costs will come down.
Phase 1 is done, the tough part is done. But as a customer, I can't wait. I mean, I need what I need now. You are a third-party logistics player, and this is your bread and butter. You know it inside out. Right. And you have to find a way out. You have to do your jugaad, right?
4 million kilometers worth of total road network in India, which is supposed to be the second largest road network in the world. But that said, only 2% of that is national highways. And this carries more than 40% of the total national road freight traffic. And it takes, at times, one monsoon rain to break it into smithereens. So this is a very complicated environment in which we have to function, and more than 70% of the total movement of goods in India happens on roads. When you move 35 different states, they're like 35 different countries. So you have, across India, you have around 52,000 toll points. 50% of the time is spent idling on the checkpost. From our company's standpoint, I would say we have GPS-equipped vehicles. These are containerized vehicles which are all weatherproof. So we try to give our drivers a better condition, a better environment in which they can fly. Entire connectivity of our business is through 17 logistics parks and 48 hubs and mega hubs, through which we are able to move the goods from anywhere to anywhere in India in a time span of 1.8 days by surface. A truck driver's son doesn't want to be a truck driver, and the conditions in which they are operating, they're not very hygienic, so nobody wants to be a truck driver.
How has TCI transformed itself from being a transport company to a supply chain management company? What kind of investments have you made in technology, and how has the customer benefited?
We are under many roofs all across the country, and we had two challenges. The first challenge was the technology piece with regard to connectivity across the country. The broadband came in very, very late for India, so we had to use the dial-up kind of modes and still have a ERP which could run on a very thin client basis, and we could do that as a first piece. Second was the advent of mobile technology. From a supplier, and the moment he makes an invoice to an ASN, it is known to the company that this invoice has been raised. The carrier takes that invoice with him, giving a part-wise tracking till the very end. So you know that if you have to make a car, for example, what parts you require, where are they in supply chain.
We are hearing that road construction is going at a very slow pace. What would you think would be ideal so that there is enough capacity to move goods around? And what would you like to say about the toll process?
There's no question but that we should be moving long-term transportation by rail. Unfortunately, our success in building new railway lines is about 6,000 kilometers in the last 65 years. So that's roughly about 100 kilometers a year. I'm happy that in the last 2 years we've been achieving 200 kilometers a year, which is a 100% increase over the historic average, but it's still much too low. You have 53 cities now in India which are 1 million plus in population. Many of them are extremely difficult to reach. If we are connecting the northeast with ASEAN, which is with the new highways coming up with Myanmar, I'm fairly certain it will be easier to move goods out of Bangkok than out of Bombay to the northeast. Ideally, you need some form of mobile money. All truck drivers have a mobile with them. If they can pay through a mobile electronic cash transfer, you don't need that horrible queuing up you see at toll barriers today.
Mr. Gupta, as a logistics player, how much do you think companies are investing in supply chain management? Do you think that is satisfactory? Is their forecasting system a good one?
In India, I think very few people are spending on analytics and forecasting. See, most of us are on ERP, so we are requesting some of our customers, if they can share the data with us, if we are allowed to share the information with them, we can save a lot of time, a lot of paperwork and all this. See, if we are allowed to share their data, so we need not submit this manual bills in the paper form and all. Whatever is possible on technology front, the acceptance has to come from the customer side.
So, Mr. Maitra, Maruti has been working on this for a long time, and that they, involve themselves with their third-party logistic players, so that some of these overlaps are done away with and it becomes more streamlined and efficient.
We have taken a target for ourselves that, within 3 days, in case if the model is easily available, of course, in the ones, which are under back order, there probably we can't do it, but, the ones which are easily available, we have taken a target of 3 days. And as a result, today, we are investing in warehouses. And the moment a customer of that side is saying that, well, we want a car, within 3 days the car must be available.
Is this a feasible idea? Is it better to have distribution centers which are just regional? How will it work in the future?
You cannot afford to have a carrying cost of inventory of about 35 to 40%. That's the one that hits your capital. And in the West, what is happening today is that retailers are demanding that you should be replacing a single product on the shelf. That means there is a virtual transit warehouse that takes place. Every time a product sells, the trucker knows there is a product that has been sold, and he is lining up his truck to take that product over there. That's the way the demand change actually works. That's why if you look at the price of a shirt in India today, is no better than a price of a shirt that is available in any other country, except the fact that India is supposed to be a low-cost manufacturing base. The only way that you're going to cut down costs is, like you said, what do you pay your drivers? The driving seat of our trucks is actually costing us 1 lakh rupees. The drivers actually spend their nights in a very good and well-designed guest house. Whether the consumer and the manufacturer is going to pay for that is a secondary question.
If you're going to have to spend so much on technology, on training, on your warehousing, how will you be competitive?
I think, if I may challenge you, I think, time has come where we got to forget that India is a low-cost economy. If you look at diesel subsidies, the day that is taken off completely, 50% of that truck's en route cost is actually diesel. I'm sure that we can bring your papaya price down to maybe a notch bit lower. I don't think we could get it at 16 rupees anymore, but I think we can bring it a notch down lower if we focus on things like waste, error, theft, the in-transit issues that we have, the policy issues, the taxation issues.
I think companies are going to be caught really unawares if they don't start preparing and start getting GST ready now. So they need to look at models wherein, perhaps you mentioned about 4 DCs and how companies need to look at models wherein they need to be very lean, and perhaps with 4 DCs they need to perhaps outsource their entire warehousing to a third-party logistics service provider. And when I say warehousing development, I mean logistics parks.
Why does the government want GST? It's because we are now dominantly a service economy, 60%. They don't want to let go that golden goose which can lay that golden egg. As it was mentioned by Harry very rightly, that the inventory carrying cost is a bigger evil. Now, inventory carrying cost has got not only the evil of having interest component to it, it's also obsolescence. The life cycle of all these products come down dramatically.
That when big retail players like Walmart, Tesco, Carrefour will come into the country, they will also transform the back end.
Anisha, it's not going to be Walmart that is going to transform the back end, it's the consumer like you and I. Because the consumer's desires, wants, preferences have changed a lot. And if they don't get instant service today, they have a medium by which they can complain, be it Twitter, be it any other social media, or the newspaper, whatever.
The companies like Walmart, their core competence is primarily in a big way supply chain and logistics. So they will definitely bring in a lot of domain knowledge as far as managing, I would say, millions of SKUs is concerned. And that is perhaps what is the future going to be.
Mr. Singh, what are the key regulatory changes that will propel this industry forward?
We have choked harbors. We have enormous delays of customs clearance for both inward and outward trade. And as an economy, we are not able to achieve the relevant level of outward orientation or linkage or exploitation of foreign markets. We're very much driven by internal consumption demand. I think this will change. Most of our tax expenditure is going on subsidies and interest payments. So the investable surplus left for the infrastructure sector is always going to be very low. I think these are the basic parameters. What are you going to do with foreign direct investment? How are you going to fund your infrastructure push? What are you thinking in terms of rural-urban balance in the economy as a whole?
Mr. Gupta, a lot has been said about the skill gap as well.
I think there are hardly 10 to 12 driver training schools or institutions which give training to the people related to our industry. I think even some time back, all the MBA colleges, they don't have a proper supply chain management course in their curriculum. Most of us are saying that a driver's son, he doesn't want to become a driver. Why? We have to go to the root cause. We have to take care of their safety. Now, what is the safety on the national highways? If there is an accident, the ambulance will not come to take him to the hospital. It will just come to take him for the postmortem. By the time the ambulance comes, it's so late. We need to have truck terminals on the highway at least every 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers, so that driver can park their vehicle there and have a peaceful sleep.
Everybody will make an effort to make an improvement when it comes to the talent and the employees that work for them. And also let's hope that the government will also get its act together and work on the regulatory hurdles, as well as create an infrastructure that will make the logistics and supply chain industry lean, effective, efficient, and one that most companies would be proud to be associated with. We'd like to thank our panel for joining us on this very interesting discussion on logistics and supply chain management.